This is Robert Smigel with Europe's podcast, where we talk to the entrepreneurs, investors, and leaders shaping innovation across Europe and beyond. Today, we are coming to you live from Web Summit in Vancouver, and I'm joined by André Faria, Senior Global Relations Manager and a key voice in Portugal's startup ecosystem, and a driving force behind Startup Portugal. André, welcome to Europe's podcast. Welcome to Vancouver, too. So is this your first time in Vancouver?
Actually, no. So it's my second time. So we attended Vancouver last year also for the first edition of the Web Summit Vancouver.
Great. Okay. So you're here at Web Summit Vancouver. You've done Lisbon. What's your role here, and why do you come here every year? What do you want to accomplish, and what are your main, what are your takeaways?
So I'm part of Startup Portugal, and Startup Portugal is the national entity responsible for boosting the startup innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem in the country. And one of the programs that we have specifically to help the Portuguese startups, it's to enter and help them expand to other markets. So our program, Business Abroad, it's what allows us to give free access for the Portuguese startups to access tech conferences such as the Web Summit. Of course, the Web Summit in Lisbon, we already know it for many years, and we've been participating there for the second edition. But we also have been attending Web Summit Qatar, Web Summit Rio. So let's say that, so we are very happy to be here at Web Summit Vancouver. For our main goal here is to help the Portuguese startups and the delegation of startups that we have here, for them to expand their businesses here to Vancouver. So we have been helping more than 320 Portuguese startups for the last 9 years since Startup Portugal appeared and was born, and that's our main goal, and that's why we are here. Of course, besides helping the startups themselves, depending on what they are looking for, because they are also looking for different goals, either investment or validation of the market, we are also positioning Portugal as eventually the gateway from Canada to Europe. So that's also why we have our own launch here between Startup Portugal and Unicorn Factory Lisboa from the municipality of Lisbon, to also welcome all the startups, partners, and investors that might be looking into Europe and might be looking into specifically Portugal.
Okay. I have been to Web Summit Lisbon, fantastic conference. It's very big, obviously one of the biggest in Europe. What are the noticeable differences between, you've been here twice, between Web Summit Vancouver and Web Summit Lisbon, and in terms of energy, attendees, and the opportunities?
Well, I would say there is a huge difference. Well, it's like the first conference, the Web Summit in Lisbon, of course, it's much bigger. So there's no denial here. Like, it's a lot of people coming from all over the world. So that's the main difference that you will find once you go there, is that all the people, everyone from all the world are actually gathering in Portugal. Here it's different. At least last year I also had more experience. Today is just the first day of our conference, so I'm also still getting a bit of the vibe here. I think it's a great strategy from the Web Summit team, even though they are the ones that know exactly why also they decided to come here. But for us, as Startup Portugal, having the Web Summit in Vancouver, it's a great opportunity. First of all, because it's a market and geographically an area that we haven't been supporting our startups to come here. So it's a great opportunity to have this possibility to help our startups expanding to Canada or eventually to America, North America also. So this proximity, that's much less people here, which eventually can be helpful. So this is a longer discussion we would have to have, which is like a big conference is better than a small conference. I would say that here the idea for our startup, it's really to get to know a market that has been proved that our founders are looking at. We have, before the Web Summit Vancouver, we have been already attending to other events, tech conferences in Toronto. But of course, the brand also Web Summit is important for our startups. So our startups are interested in coming here, and they have been having good experiences also attending the Web Summit on the first edition. This one, we are happy to see what are going to be the results.
Okay, good. Are you seeing a stronger collaboration between European and Canadian companies, particularly in business and startups, ecosystems at the events like this? Are you seeing when you come here, as well as when you're in Lisbon, there's a real collaboration between Canadian companies and European companies?
Yes, I think so. I think from both sides, and I think that might be the reason why also Web Summit decided to be here. So for us, again, it's a great market. There is, I would say, also some cultural proximity, and this is very important when doing business. And sometimes people don't talk so much about it, but in terms of the mindset and even the culture, the way of doing business, this has a big impact when you are internationalizing and expanding your market. And eventually, this is a saying that we hear everywhere, that there is some kind of similarity between Canada and Europe. So I guess that might be also something that influence this connection. Again, as I mentioned, we have been always connecting to Canada. Also, historically, in Portugal, there's a lot of Portuguese people that migrate to Canada many years ago. So there is also this historical connection eventually. And we have been getting closer to the entities, eventually some also governmental entities here in Vancouver that has been helping us to make this bridge between Canada and Europe, and specifically Portugal. So we have been working also with some partners here, for example, Innovate BC. We have been working and sharing best practices also between some of the entities. So there is this benchmark also from the Web Summit and the experience that we have in Lisbon, and also them for the second edition hosting the Web Summit here. And also we have the contrary. So we do have some Canadian also people and experts in Portugal, and they are very willing to help this bridge. For example, in our delegation here at the Web Summit Vancouver, besides the delegation of the startups, we do have also some incubators, some accelerators, some investors and venture builders. And one of them, it's a Canadian that he's currently living in Portugal, and his main goal also, and the reason why he's also part of the delegation, is to really help the gap and to make this bridge between Canada and Portugal.
So you've got some strong alliances going on here between Europe and Canada at this point.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. You're not coming here by yourself.
No.
Okay, what do you do exactly? Startup Portugal, you support founders and beyond. What does the hands-on support look like with each particular company that you work with, and how do you expand in countries like Canada? So are you hands-on, are you mentoring, or what does the kind of daily activity look like for a startup in Portugal, let's say, wants to expand into Canada or just expand globally? What are the hands-on things that you guys do?
So as I mentioned before, we are the national entity, and we are responsible for boosting the startup ecosystem. So we were born, Startup Portugal, in 2016, when the Web Summit took for the first time in Lisbon. Okay, so this really changed the ecosystem and what we have done, and that's the year that Startup Portugal was born by the Ministry of Economy, that they felt the need of having a small group of people at the time looking at what is this startup world. Everything was still kind of new also in Portugal. We already had the entrepreneurial, let's say, DNA. So it was important for the government to understand exactly what is that. And this is still part of the main goal of Startup Portugal. So our main goal is to map the ecosystem. And what does that mean? It means like understanding how many startups do we have. And we currently have 5,091 startups in Portugal. How many incubators that we have? And we currently have 130 incubators. Besides identifying how many they are, we are also in charge of certifying what is an incubator, and eventually also have managed some public investment on directly to the incubators and accelerators. And at the same time, we also have approved, and we're part of the governmental institutions in terms of approving a startup law. So we are also part of the group of entities that are able to certify it, let's say, what is a startup, because before there was no law, the definition of what is a startup, and a startup was SME, so they have the same conditions. So this is something recent that we approved in 2023. So of course we do a lot of public policies, so as you can understand by what I'm telling you. So our main work is the being the enablers and connectors of the whole ecosystem. So we have a one-stop shop where a startup can reach out to us, and that's why we are here in our launch. And people tell us, oh, you want to move to Portugal, you want to have a subsidiary there. How does that work? How do we connect it? And then we connect it to the right people, not necessarily having ourselves the services. But we do have some services, and that's one of them is the reason why we are here, which is to help startups in their internationalization process. So we do invest in making sure that we are here, that we allow the startups to participate here also for free. So this is a direct service that we are providing for the startups. We organize also our own conference back in Portugal, more connected in investors and startups. So this is also something that we organize specifically for helping the startups and the investors getting well connected. We're also working with universities and making sure that the research that is happening in the universities eventually can turn also into startups. So we are working with that. And at the same time, we are also working in terms of corporations, so big corporates, and helping them to connect with the startups.
How can people connect with you or learn more about Startup Portugal?
Yeah, so startupportugal.com is the best way to get to all this information. Again, one of our goals is to map the ecosystem. So in our website, you can check exactly how many startups, what are they doing. You can filter by industry, all of that. You can also do the same for the investors and also research and understand and find all our support for them. We have the one-stop shop, which is the best way for the person, a founder, an investor that says, hey, I'm here in Portugal, I want to connect, I want to help the startups, what do we do? And then we have a team dedicated to make these connections and tell them, hey, if you're looking for this, you should reach out to this person, or hey, here's the link where you can go and access to some community events that we are organizing. So it really depends, and we have a personalized approach to depending on what the person and what their profiles are looking for.
Okay, so this is good for Canadian and European companies.
Yes, absolutely. It's for everyone in the world.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for joining us on Europe's podcast. Some great insights here for me and from Portugal, as well as the global stage here at Web Summit Vancouver. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here.